Next podcast with Chris and Todd.
Hey, well, welcome back to the next podcast. Let's revisit the last podcast for a minute. I tried to tell a joke, and
You did.
and I butchered it. And the joke was, why did the chicken only go halfway across the road?
And why is that?
Because he wanted to lay it on the line.
There we go.
And I butchered. I got shout out, Dad. I butchered the joke. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
You were talking about how the chicken laid an egg halfway.
I know.
and was
You
like-
lay it on the line,
And I was like, okay.
why you got to bring the egg into this? It has
Yeah.
nothing to do. It's all about the
The
chicken.
chicken before the egg,
Either
philosophical
way,
here.
we had barbecue for the night. It was awesome.
well, there you
Anyway,
go.
no, welcome back to the next podcast. Hey, we are excited because Easter is right around the corner. Or
It's coming.
It's and fast.
Yes.
Holy cow. So if you've been a part of Easter at Fountain Springs, or some of my first 2 Easters at Fountain Springs were when we were at the Civic Center. And I know a lot of people would love to go back. I think it'd be great. But we made that decision and choice here a couple of years ago to say, you know what? I think at our location is, and it's proven to be fantastic. And
Yeah, I mean, think about the history of Easter
Yeah.
at Fountain Springs. Just crazy to think about because it's just going from, we were just mainly at our location for a long time.
yeah,
I remember I did an Easter skit.
really.
I was Jesus.
I
did.
I mean, it's not that far fetched. You
Come on now. Come on now. Let's not go down that road. So yes, if you do a deep dive into YouTube, good luck finding it. But yeah, we did an Easter skit. Did you remember the Lifehouse skit?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
I was Jesus in that one.
Okay. So here you go. If you find that skit and bring it to me at West location, I will buy you a coffee. I need to see Pastor Todd's reenactment of being Jesus in that skit. You show it to me at West, and I will buy you a coffee at the coffee shop.
That's fine.
Hey, sounds great.
You know, I thought it was one of my best performances. I can't even say that without laughing.
It was my only performance. I've never been asked to do it again.
But then I remember, like, okay, there were some times where, all right, we may need to find a bigger space. And so that's where the Civic Center came into the conversation. And I remember the first time we went to the Civic Center, we were a church of maybe, we were like, okay, 500 to 600.
Yep.
And we were going to an auditorium that seated 1,000, 1,100.
Yeah, and so you guys, I was here from 05 to 08. David came in 08. Yeah. I remember hearing about, because I had a pretty good idea of who Fountain Springs was, and I was like, no way.
Right.
They're going, no way.
I mean,
They're
if you
going,
know the history, before that, the church was struggling.
But it was a bold move, and it was awesome. And
And so, and then we decided we were crazy, and this is the part we were wrestling with, and probably more David than any of us. He was just like, I know we should go to the Civic Center.
Yeah.
Should we do 2 services? And you're going, I don't think so. Like,
you're crazy.
I don't know if we're going to grow that much.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
And we did 2 services, and both of them were decently full. And we were like, God, what are you doing?
And that's the crazy part, because your guys' decision was not just big for Fountain Springs, but it was freeing for other churches at the time, because we ended up going to the well at Williston State College when I was at New Hope, and we did a couple of Easters there, and we're just like, man, it was almost like, you know, those things when somebody gives you permission to do something that you didn't think could, but then
you do it.
But they did it. Let's go. If they're doing it, come on. And so I think sometimes that is just as big and encouraging in the grand scheme of things, you know, to encourage one another and be like, no, you got this. Try it. Go step out in faith.
And we went through a lot of different pieces to that, because then we went from the theater to kind of the main arena and did that, and it was awesome, and we loved it. And it's still times that we're like, man, it'd just be great to get everybody together.
Yep.
But what you lack in some of that is the intentionality of somebody being able to come to your location, experience kind of what you would normally do on a Sunday. And sometimes what we saw in the community, it was just like easy for someone to come to that and you never see them again.
Absolutely.
And so that's the part that we want to be like, well, I think if we're a little bit more intentional in being able to have them experience, whether it's West, East, or wherever, and be able to go, hey, come back.
I think that's the powerful statement. Like, because so oftentimes in church we go, let's do the big number. Let's just go all out. And then they come back the next Sunday and you're like, am I at the same church? Yeah. And really, we want that to be a powerful statement of saying, this is who we are, not just on Easter. And yeah, there may be some extra things in there, but the core of who we are, we want that to shine through and be a part of.
I don't want to clarify. There's nothing wrong doing big services like that and renting stuff out. Like we did it for a time. We thought it was right, but we also felt as a church, and this is where it's like God leading.
Yeah.
You know? You're like, there's times for that, and then there's times you got to go, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
now.
And you have to be true to yourself in that. You're right. You have to be willing to listen and not push it. But if it's working and God's using it, man, that's a beautiful thing.
Right. And I also think for us, it gets us into more of our. There's a little bit of kingdom building with having like 8 services at West and 4 services at East, to where you're going, we got to find the volunteers to pull that off.
Absolutely. And we do, and here we do have some amazing volunteers.
Awesome volunteers.
Yeah.
And so being able to pull that off means we need more people to be a part of it. When you're doing not saying it doesn't take volunteers then, but it's just you're cramming 2 locations into one, and sometimes you don't you don't need as many.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that becomes some other parts of it that are just along the way of like, hey, we want to be a church that gives multiple people to be a part of what we're doing.
Yep, absolutely.
And volunteering is a huge part of that. And so with Easter coming up, it's just like we throw some of this out there just to give you perspective. I think throw some of this out here to kind of be like, hey, we want you to be a part of this.
Yeah.
It's a next podcast, so here you go. Here's your next step.
Yeah, if you want to take a step to serve, kids ministry, you got to get a background check. So, man, get that in early. If you're thinking kids, coffee shop or
serving, we got in regards to our teams, like got parking, ushering, guest services,
tickets,
next steps, and
so, that is it. Get your tickets. Come on, like they're free, but get your tickets so you have a space to sit. We don't want anybody sitting in the lobby.
No,
we don't want. We want you to have a great experience. We want you to be in there. So get your tickets, and
that's why we have to do all the services, just so that people can have that. And getting the tickets, and if you're wondering, like, do you have to pay? No, they're free. And so, I mean, Chris is selling some on the side. No,
that's right.
Just kidding.
Just trying to pay for that new Easter shirt, you know.
So, but it's looking back, like Easter and Christmas, but I think even Easter's been more special just to see our church go through what it has with Easter.
Yeah, I would agree.
Christmas we've always done at our locations, but man, Easter's been that journey of seeing our church go from, we did it at this, and now we're doing it here, and now we're adjusting here. And more of that is just allowing God to lead us in all of that.
Yeah, and
you've been a part of it. So you've seen some of those changes happen too.
Yeah, and it's been fun. I think one of the big things is just the time and intentionality that is taken to plan Easter. It is not. I mean, we know the story, but really just trying to decipher early on, what do we need to do? What do we feel God's direction is, and how do we want to approach song to message to response, and just be faithful to his leading in it, not just something cool that we think would be great, but what do we sense him doing that maybe there's a word or there's something that we need to go after.
Yeah.
And that's such a powerful, I think it's a powerful act of obedience to say this would be great, but this is what we're hearing collectively. And I appreciate our team for that. I appreciate their willingness to be intentional, to take time to listen and to plan in that way, in that vein. So
yeah, we have an awesome creative team, and they're already, I mean, they get it planned out a couple months in advance, and they're just working through what that service will look like, and then we speak into some of those components of the service, and it's just. It's powerful to see kind of what a team can pull off, but then also you add all the volunteers into that to make it happen.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you're getting a little bit of the behind the scene.
Yeah.
Here's what it takes. Here's what it looks like to pull off all the 12 services we'll have this year. Sure. And
just when you say it, you're like,
I know.
Oh yeah, here it comes. Let's get fired up. Yep. Come on.
And so, and for us as a staff, and like. And people are like, "Oh, I bet you're tired." Yes, there is a tired, but man, if there was something I wanted to be tired after, this would be it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being able to have people hear about Jesus and then go like, "Yeah, all right, we'll take Monday and we'll go right back at it."
Well, there are. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes there are only certain shots that we get to be able to be a part of somebody's life, or somebody is going to say yes to come to church because it is Easter and because that is just what they do. And we want to be ready. We want to be intentional about any chance and opportunity we get to share with people about Jesus and what he's done and how amazing we think he is.
Yeah. And it's, I think David said it yesterday to me, and it was just like, oh yeah, he's like, you just got to remember, like, especially as a pastor, like, that's a one role that you get to do in somebody's life. No one else kind of gets. I mean, you can have other pastors, sure, but it's like that's a unique role you get to carry in their life. And I would tell all of our church, like, being a disciple into somebody's life, just, hey, let me speak to you. That's a unique role.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I trying to learn to not take that lightly or take it for granted or any of those things, and just being like, no, we get to.
Yeah, and I think that's an important aspect for us as we think about serving. I mean, 8 services at West.
Yeah.
Thursday 1 service, Friday 1 service, 3 on Saturday, and 3 on Sunday, and we all know that we can fill our time and our moments with the things that we want to, but there are moments and times where we sit back and go, okay, this is just the season we are in, and I want my volunteers, you want your volunteers to come in with a great mindset of like, oh man, why do we have so many? No, like you said, we get to do this, and I believe that shifts the game when we can come at it with such a healthy mindset. And I'm not saying that's what our volunteers do at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, I think sometimes in the busyness and the craziness of it, the enemy can speak into that and be like, man, you are just giving a lot of time for some services. Yeah, we are, because they matter. because let's be honest, not to get super spiritual, but eternity is on the line. And the weight of people knowing or not knowing Jesus matters, and it has to matter. It matters to us. I mean, that's why we do what we do, to show people who Jesus is, to let them know that we want to be a church that is not just in our community, but for the community, and really being a part of the heartbeat of it. So
I think it's one of the best things we can do as a family, and thinking as parents, just being like, hey, seeing all of your kids and yourselves and your spouse being involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand sometimes those family dynamics aren't exactly how you'd love them to be, but sometimes you do have the ability to lead that, and you can go, hey, let's go after this together. And to go, man, where else could we give our time to something like this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And to see, we see decisions happen at Easter every year. We see people's lives change, and it's not just like, hey, in that moment, sometimes they hear it and they're like, man, I don't know, and they come back, and that begins a transformation that it's more even like, hey, I need to walk this out more. And some are like, boom, right there in that moment. And so it always is.
The stories that come out of Easter are great because sometimes they lead to a baptism, and just really somebody's life taking off in a powerful way.
It's powerful. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. One of the things you talked about was like having everybody there. It's a family thing. And then my mind went right to my daughter in college and just going, yeah, she won't be here like she was at Christmas, but she's going to be a part of Easter at her church, and being a part of
part
that.
Part of the kingdom.
Yeah.
Doing
and
things,
that is the beautiful thing. It's not just us. There are so many churches that are sharing about the good news of Jesus, and we pray that they have a great Easter as well. So
I look at it this way, like, yes, don't get me wrong. The Easter hunt will be fun with the kids and the dinner that we will have, whatever. But I think what we go through leading up to that, I think is like, man, that was meaningful. That was powerful. And then to see our kids see us just enjoy, hey, some time together.
Yep,
you're like,
absolutely.
Yeah, this is what it's about. Because you could do the Easter egg hunt and do all that and have none of the serving stuff. And to me, I'd feel like, just as a person who's, I know I'm a pastor, been in church for a long time, but I'd be like, it would lack something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would to me. I'd be like, man, all we did was attend and kind of consume it.
Yeah.
And now we're doing something else that's more about us.
Yeah.
And so, and hear me, if you're just attending, no problem. But I would say, I think God does not want you just to stay there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is something where God's going, I want you to be a part of this. I want you to see what what I'm doing, and not just this Sunday, but this every Sunday and Thursday, the services that you have.
I think it is, and I think it speaks volumes if you're willing to take a step to say, okay, if I were to serve one service, if I were to greet, or if I were to stand in the parking lot, you will find an exponentially better experience, I believe, than just coming and being a part of service.
And even if it's a rough one, because people are driving crazy and you're trying to park them and those kind of things.
Let's be honest, we don't always like to be told where to park.
Yeah, no kidding. Or where to sit, But I would say you go, but we're helping people.
Yep, absolutely.
We're trying to make a great experience. And I always tell people the reason why we do this is because someone helped us be able to experience God. And it was meaningful. I felt welcomed. I felt all those things. So I'm helping parents be able to sit in the service, but also help their kids be able to enjoy what it means to learn about Jesus. And so those are just things that it's more of a heart mindset. But I'd also even add on to that, like, yes, you got serving, but for those of you who are giving, you make this possible.
Yep.
Like we can't host services. We don't have a building. We don't have the staff. We don't have all these volunteers in place because of the resources and the finances that we're able to do more with it. Some of that. And so it's a team. Like, yes, we got our serving team, we've got our giving team, and they're making all of this happen. And so if you're part of that, just know you're very much appreciated.
Yeah. And we want to walk out those core values, and we want to walk out that willingness to just be on mission.
And this is us being irrationally generous.
Yep,
like that is one of our core values. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're taking up time that normally be like, man, it's Thursday, it's Friday, it's Saturday, and it's Sunday. I get that. But also like being generous in the sense of like, hey, here we go. Here's some of my resources. And to be a part of that, not just saying, hey, you should do this, but I'm invested in this. I'm giving my time. I'm giving of my resources. And going, it's cool to see the team aspect of this.
Yep, absolutely. And I love that because the collaboration and the team working together to just make it work is awesome to watch. I mean, the kids team, the next gen team just working to get those volunteers in place, and the energy that they exude to show new volunteers, like, hey, this is what we do, and this is how we get excited. Like, man, if you've never been down there for
they make it look awesome.
They
too.
Do. They make it look creative. Great, and even getting students involved. And like one of my daughters is a junior helper, but also getting other kids on stage to help lead. And it's not just being involved, it's helping facilitate something that they just feel that ownership in that. And the kids area is so great about just really dialing in how it's going to hit and impact that child that's going to be down there for that time.
Yeah, I think my hope and prayer for Easter is it's a starting point or a next step for you. Whether it's I've never been to church before and I'd love to come. Great, come. We'd love for you to be a part of that. Maybe you've been coming for many years and you love Easter at Fountain Springs, but you never served before. Serve.
Yep.
Or you're serving and you're like, you know what? I've never taken that step of giving. Give. I think God is going to use these big moments like this to kind of go, okay, where are we growing? How are we taking the next step in this?
Absolutely.
And so that's, I am curious, when it comes to Easter, like, what is your, like, favorite memory with Easter?
My favorite memory at Easter. That is a good question. Do you already have one?
I do. I can go first.
Well, you go first. Give me a second on that.
Well, it goes back to my, play days, just being in plays. And
back when you were the star.
Yes. No, there was one. It was crazy how it all played out because I remember going to a Ray Boltz concert.
Watch the Lamb. Come on.
There we go. That was actually the song.
There you go.
I was like, I did not want to be at this concert. My parents drugged me to this thing. And it wasn't around Easter, but I was like, I remember it just shook me because I've seen this video and it's Jesus dying on the cross, but it's kind of through this lens of Simon who carried his cross.
Yeah.
And so some years later, like they were like, hey, let's do a kids skit. And they asked us, like, what would you like to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, there is this video. I think we should reenact it.
Okay.
So at Easter, I remember kind of playing the part of Simon.
Okay. Yeah.
And carrying the cross and walking through that whole story of washing the lamb. But it's just like came full circle to be like, that had an impact. And then this.
Man.
So as a kid, that was like a big thing to be like, oh, that's crazy how that. But what was funny is my mic kept falling off of my pants. So I'm constantly picking it up. And it fell like 4 or 5 times. So I'm just saying lines while I'm picking up and dragging this pack behind me. So it was. It was not our best play ever. This is why I don't get asked to do them again. But
when they do the documentary of Todd's life, and just mine is a collective. I think about this a lot, and just the number of people I've watched stand up or respond, and people that I have been able to get to know or invest time in. And the moment where they stand or they cross over a bridge, or you're going, I know what this year has been like. And for me, I think that is always one of the funnest things is, I remember here a couple of years ago, one of my buddies stood up and I just lost it. And I beeline for him. And I'm just like, this is amazing. God is doing something awesome in his life. And I can't be more excited. The second one I think about is one time up in North Dakota, you've seen this analogy, this is eternity and this is now. And we had a piece of rope about 10 inches long. We're like, this is our life right now. And then we had a big spool of rope that stretched the length of the seats, the auditorium. And this rope was
that's awesome.
And you're like, and this represents eternity. And it was just this really profound moment as we got to watch this roll of rope unravel and just be an amazing, impactful reminder that this is life now, but eternity is going to be so much greater and so much more awesome than we think. And it's longer than you can ever imagine, because we think this life is it. We think, man, there is so much, and we do, and we try to be intentional. We try to live it out. We try to cram so much in, but man, eternity is coming. So those are my 2 things that I love.
I love that you kind of threw in hey, here's one of I would say as an adult, I think one of my favorite is when we first did the Civic Center.
Yeah.
We had so many people respond to it,
Sure.
and we had promised hey, if you make a decision, here's a Bible.
Okay.
We thought we got enough. We weren't even close, which was just okay, God. But what was powerful is you had people Christians who are going, do you need a Bible? Here's mine. Here's mine.
Yeah.
And just the holy cow, this is happening right now.
That's cool.
And just going, we have Bibles being given away to new believers from people who are here, I'll get another one. You just take mine.
You imagine opening up somebody's Bible, right?
They've got notes in it. They got
this verse is awesome, and then you've got somebody else that's this verse sucks. I hate it.
So it was just a profound moment to see volunteers doing something that I was man, I wasn't expecting that at all. Wasn't expecting God to move in that, but I just love those moments where you go, God, you did something miraculous.
Watching people rise to the occasion is never a dull moment, man. That is so cool.
And it's cool to see that, and that's why Easter's special.
I agree. We hope to see you there.
Yep.
One of the 12 services, man, whether east or west, whatever the case is, let's get fired up, and it's going to be a great time, and we're really looking forward to it.
There we go.
Let's
go.
Let's go. We'll see you next time.